I'm convinced that Pokemon taught us how to live life. When I was a kid, I loved Pokemon so much that I used to play it in my car at night on the old Game Boy Color that didn't have a light in it yet. So I had to use the streetlights passing by going through the window just to see the screen. I'd wait 10 seconds for a light to pass so I could see my game and play it for 2 seconds at a time. That's how much I loved this so-called kids game about catching monsters. But here's the thing I didn't really realize back then. It wasn't just a game about catching monsters, and I'm going to make the case that Pokemon was secretly one of the most complete lessons about life that our whole generation ever got. That underneath the cute creatures, this little game was quietly teaching 8-year-olds how to make hard choices, how to work, how to wait, how to need other people, how to finish what they start, basically how to survive being an adult, and we had no idea how much it would actually shape who we are in life. It taught us so much. So let's start right at the beginning with the game. And we will, of course, talk about the show, but let's start with the first original games, Red and Blue, and in some cases, depending on where you lived, Green. It starts by making you choose immediately. Think about the very first thing Pokemon asks you to do. You've barely started. You don't know anything yet, and Professor Oak puts 3 Pokeballs in front of you and says, pick one. Charmander, Bulbasaur, or Squirtle. And that's it. It's a huge decision, the choice that shapes your entire journey. Your whole game is different depending on which one you grab, and you have to make it right now as a total beginner with almost no information. And you can't undo it, right? Unless you start a new game. And in some cases, once you've already played it and knew what you wanted, you knew what was waiting for you. If you picked Charmander, you knew Gary was getting that Squirtle. You also knew that the first gym fight was Brock and his rock Pokemon. So if you didn't pick Squirtle, you might have a hard time. But you make your decision, no takebacks. You pick and you live with it. And man, if that is not life. Because that's exactly how the biggest decisions actually work. You almost never get to make them when you're ready. You pick your major before you know who you are. You take the job before you know if it's right for you. You fall for the person before you have any type of guarantees. Life hands you 3 Pokeballs when you're a beginner and says, choose now. And you don't get to see how it plays out first. And Pokemon taught us the most important thing about that. There's really no wrong starter. Charmander, Bulbasaur, Squirtle. You can win the whole game with any of them. The choice mattered, but not because one was right and the other was wrong. It mattered because you committed to one and you made it work. And that's the actual lesson about big decisions. It's usually less about picking the perfect one and more about committing to your pick and basically going all in. There was never a wrong starter. There was just the one you chose and grew. And in some people's cases, I know a lot of people, they never finished the game with their starters. They put them in the box and beat the game without them. And that's life too. Sometimes really big decisions end up helping us a lot in the beginning, but we ultimately go on to new things. Then it teaches you that everything good takes boring, tedious, unglamorous work. So after you make your starter choice, the grind starts. And let's be honest about what leveling up a Pokemon actually was. It was tedious. You'd walk back and forth in the tall grass for hours, battle the same weak wild Pokemon over and over, watch the little experience bar crawl up. It was repetitive. It was slow. It was frankly kind of boring, especially before you got the experience share in the later games. But here's the thing. You did it willingly for hours because you knew that on the other side of all of that grinding was a stronger team. You understood as a kid that you had to put in the boring reps to get the payoff. I can't tell you how many times I fought Pokemon who barely gave me any XP because I was so far into the game, but I still needed to level up to beat the Elite Four, and I needed to fight those weak Pokemon. But it's just something that you had to do. And this was without the rare candy glitch, by the way, doing this all, the right way. And that is one of the most important life skills that there is, and almost nobody talks about. Everybody wants to be great at something. Nobody wants to do the tall grass part. But every single worthwhile thing has a tall grass part. The tedious, repetitive, unglamorous middle where you're just putting in the reps and the bar is crawling, barely. The workout you don't feel like doing, the scales on the instrument, the 100th cold call, the 100th email. Pokemon taught us that the grind isn't a sign that something's wrong. The grind is the path. It's the way. You leveled up in real life the exact same way that you leveled up after you left Pallet Town. Boring rep after boring rep until one day you can take on the Elite Four and finally shut Gary up. But then it teaches you patience, real patience. And this is different than the lesson before. It's not walking in the tall grass patience. This is a little different because it makes you hunt for something rare. Leveling up is one kind of work. You know what it is. But Pokemon had this other thing that was harder. The wait for something rare. And anyone who's played the game knows this feeling. There's a Pokemon you want, a rare one, that isn't in a standard legendary spot that you can just get and go find. It's in the tall grass and you don't know where it's going to show up or if it's going to show up. And when you're wandering through the same cave, the same route, the same patch, the same grass over and over again, hoping, it takes a lot of patience. And sometimes even when you find it, finally, it can run or you accidentally knock it out or you throw ball after ball after ball and it breaks free every single time. Some of us spent hours chasing one single Pokemon and you kept going because you wanted it that badly. That's a different muscle than the grind. The grind is steady work. This is patience. It's patient persistence in the face of low odds and repeated failure. And life is full of that one. The thing that you want most is rarely the thing that shows up on a schedule. The right opportunity, the big break, the person sometimes. Sometimes you're just walking the same route over and over again, getting your hopes up and watching it slip. And the only thing that you can do is keep showing up and keep throwing that Pokeball. Pokemon taught us some things that you don't earn through steady grinding. You earn through refusing to quit the hunt, through staying in the tall grass long after a reasonable person would have. Then, and this is the sneaky one, it teaches you that you literally could not do it alone. Here's the thing about Pokemon that's almost a little too clever. The whole goal, the entire point, the thing burned into the title screen is gotta catch them all. Complete the Pokédex, get all 150 Pokemon. And that was the beautiful part because even after you defeated the Elite Four and Gary, you're still setting out to complete your Pokédex. And here's the trick that they built right into the game. You could not do it by yourself. It was literally impossible. Certain Pokemon only existed in the other version of the game. Some only evolved when you traded them to somebody else. The game was literally designed so that the only way to complete your goal was to connect with another person, link up and trade. Think about how wild that actually is. The central goal of the game was engineered to be unachievable in isolation. They made needing other people a requirement to win. And I can remember anytime I had a hockey game when I was a kid, me and my friends would bring our Game Boys and link cables because we wanted to trade with each other. We needed to trade with each other to evolve our Pokemon and get the ones that existed in the other game. And those moments were some of the greatest and literally most fun moments of my childhood. So this game taught us that we don't have to do it alone. And that might be the truest thing that it's ever taught us because we live in a world right now that sells us the fantasy of doing it alone. The solo grind, the self-made everything. And Pokemon, this little kid's game, quietly called that a lie 30 years ago. It said, no, the full picture, the complete version of the thing you're chasing, you cannot get there by yourself. You're going to have to link up with somebody. You're going to have to trust a friend, trade something you value, and let them be a part of it. The people who catch them all in life are never the ones who did it solo. They're the ones who traded. And even if you could do it by yourself, life is so much better when you're with people that you love and like. And honestly, that's the whole heart of Ash and Pikachu's story too from the show. Because if you recall, and I'm sure most people do, Pikachu didn't like Ash at first. He would not get into his Pokeball. He shocked him a lot. The bond wasn't just there right away. Ash had to earn it, and he earned it by, in that first episode, protecting Pikachu from that flock of Spearow before he had gotten anything from Pikachu. And once Ash had that one real connection with Pikachu, everything else became possible. The bond came first though. The adventure came second. Same lesson twice. You don't do the big thing alone. And the connections that carry you are the ones you invest in. And the journey is much more fun and meaningful if you have people that you like with you along the way. Then it teaches you to actually finish something. Let's go back to that goal. Catch 'em all. Complete the Pokédex. And it's a long goal and it takes a really long time. Hundreds of hours, and most things in life that take that long, we quit. We start strong, but then we start to drift away. Pokemon got a whole generation of kids who could barely finish their homework, and yes, I am talking about myself, to commit to a massive long-term goal and see it through, to keep a running record of their progress, to chip away at it for months, to not give up on the incomplete parts. And that's rarer than it sounds. Finishing is a skill. Lots of people can start. Starting is easy, and it feels good. The tall grass middle is where most dreams quietly die, unfortunately. People drift off around the halfway point and tell themselves that they'll come back, but a lot of the times they don't. Pokemon trained us to push through that, to hold a goal in our heads for the long haul and actually complete it. Whatever you're trying to build right now, the version of you that finished it is the same kid who was determined to fill in that last empty slot in the Pokédex. That determination was always in you. The game just found it early, and nobody proves that better than Ash himself. He set out to become the very best when he was 10 years old. He stayed 10 years old forever, but he did not give up on that goal for a very, very long time. Hold on to that, because we're going to come back to that and just how long it took him. And that's a really big payoff. So hold on to that. And what's funny about that is I remember in college, I was really struggling to understand some things. And I kind of said to my dad, well, maybe something's wrong with me. Maybe I have problems learning. And my dad shut that down really quick, saying, son, when you were 10, I watched you memorize every single Pokemon that there was, and you knew every intricate detail about them. You're fine. Just keep at it. So I did. And just like I finished the game, I finished college eventually. But then this is the quiet one, the one that I think actually matters the most. And here's the last thing. And it's the one that nobody talks about because it doesn't really sound like a lesson or that something that it taught us. But Pokemon was fun, and it was yours. It was a world you got to disappear into that belonged completely to you. Nobody grading it, no stakes, just the simple, pure joy of the thing that you loved. For no other reason than you loved it. I told you how I chased the streetlights just to see the screen, but it went further than that. When TiVo first came out, yes, I'm old, my dad recorded Pokemon for me so I could watch it the second that I got home from school. And I remember being so excited. I could just barely sit still waiting for the next episode. Nobody made me love it. It wasn't productive. It was just mine. It was something that I just truly loved and just got excited about. And as we get older, I think it's sad, but I think a lot of us lose that. We start needing everything in life to be productive or useful or monetizable. We forgot how to do something just for the pure joy of it. And I think that might be one of the most important things that Pokemon quietly gave us. Permission to love something simple, just for the sake of it. To take time that's just ours. To enjoy being alive without it having to really mean anything, but just be pure joy. And I think we need that. I know we need that. Not the productive stuff, the joy stuff. The thing you do just because it's yours. Pokemon was a lot of kids' first taste of that. And it's a thing worth protecting your entire life. So I look at this and I look at everything that the so-called kids game actually did. It made you choose before you were ready, taught you to grind through the boring middle. It taught you to be patient when the odds were low. It made you need other people to win. It trained you to finish what you started. And it gave you permission to love something simple just because it was yours. Making tough choices, hard work, patience, community, follow through, joy. That's not really a kid's game. I mean, it is, but that's really the curriculum for being a person and getting through life. We just didn't notice that we were learning it because it was wrapped in cute monsters and a catchy song, a really catchy song. And remember Ash, of course, the kid who set out to be the very best when he was 10? Here's the payoff I promised you. He chased that dream, losing and getting back up over and over and over again. For 25 years, real time, by the way. Again, never aged past 10, and you could look to the Ho-Oh theory for that, but for 25 years of our lives, he chased it. And when he finally became the world champion with that same Pikachu on his shoulder who didn't even trust him day one, I know I'm not the only one who cried hearing that theme song as Pikachu stepped up against Charizard. 25 years ago of every single one of these lessons, and the payoff was simply glorious when he finally won. And that's the whole point. Everything that got Ash there, you already have too. You've had it in you since you were 8 years old, or maybe you jumped into the games when you were 30, but the lessons are still the same. You have it in you. So here's what I'll leave you with. Which lesson right now do you think you need the most? The tough choices that you've been avoiding, the grind that you've been dodging, the people you've been trying to do it without, because Pokemon already taught you what to do. You just have to remember you already know it.